Good evening. Welcome to the July meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everyone. Linda, will you call the order, please?
Councilor Adam Cohen.
Here.
Councilor Stacy Langdon. Here. Councilor Steve Fields.
Here.
Councilor Tyler Wade.
Here.
Councilor Mark Hammer.
Here.
Councilor Gary Lemon.
Here.
And Councilor Dave Murray.
Here.
Do we have any public petitions or comments that are related to business that is not already on the agenda? Are you asking for, do you have an extra street closure? Or?
Sorry, were you asking if we had extra information?
No, you're already on the agenda.
I
for
think you're on the
street
agenda.
closure.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay. Hearing none, I would like to mention that we received in the mail today a thank you note from Ben Gelman, who was the winner of the Rokiki Scholarship. And Ben writes, and Ben serves on our Sustainability Commission. He just went off and as he travels to Colorado to attend school this fall. But he says, Dear Rokiki Scholarship donors, thank you for the very generous scholarship. Your generosity is part of what makes Greencastle such a supportive community. It is an honor to receive a scholarship dedicated to a man who cared so deeply about the civic well-being of his city. I hope that one day I can have such a meaningful impact on the community in which I settle. Thanks again, sincerely, Ben. I'll pass that down.
And Tyler's going to be representing us. The thing is later this year. It's August 2nd. So Tyler said he would represent us at the scholarship.
As I recall, Ben Gelman is our lone National
Yes, he
Merit
is.
Scholarship finalist.
Yeah. He's been
Fitting recipient.
Yes.
a great contributor to our Sustainability Commission over the years.
Just going to take the notes of the meetings now.
Yeah.
Bill's
Well,
been doing that for,
Yeah, he found another colleague at the high school to take over, so
He's a great kid.
she'll be joining us next month.
I'm sure he will do well out in Colorado at college.
Okay, we have several special requests. Is Chris Myers here? Chris, come on up. Chris is the CEO of Area 10 Agency on Aging, and Area 10 is our provider of rural transit, and Chris called and asked if she could provide an update to council on their operations. So Chris,
Right.
thanks for coming up.
Thank you for having me. As you said, I'm with Area 10.
bad spot
Actually, I've been in the sun the whole way up.
You're really in the spotlight.
I'm red-faced by nature because I'm a redhead, but I'm also ornery, but I won't bring that out. So I'll save you of that.
I think you just did.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I just asked to come and just give you an update. It's not a request of anything other than informational. We have been providing transit. It's public transportation. We call it the Rural Transit Program, and we've been doing that in Putnam County for, I think, 15 or so years. Last year, this first page, so I've given you a few different pages in your handout. The first one is just kind of a nice summary. It tells you how many trips we had. In 2017, it was just under 18,000 trips that we provided to Putnam County residents. And so far this fiscal year, our fiscal year is January through December. So January through May, we have given about 6,400. Sheila, you can come on up. Sheila White is going to come up just because she might want to say a few words. She's the transit coordinator for Putnam County. So she actually does all the actual logistics of running the show here. But I also wanted to let you know that every year we have to put in for a renewal application with NDOT. This is a federal program that helps fund this operation. It funds it at 50%. And so, in full transparency, I wanted to provide you with the budget for that we submitted to NDOT. That's the second page. Your first column is your numbers for our 4-county area, one of which is Putnam County. And then the next column is the breakout for what it costs for running transit in Putnam County. The way the formula works is we have 50% of our net expenses that can be supported by the federal grant, and then there's a fixed amount that the state actually provides. It's not 25%, so the local match actually has to make up the difference. And so you'll see those breakouts where, you know, for the $294,000 that it will cost to run, or projected to cost to run transit in 2019, we expect just over $12,000 in fares, and that would leave us with $281,000 of our net expense, of which we're counting on about $75,500 in local match, and then the state, that pulls down state funds of $64,000 and Fed funds of $142,000. That next page is actually a breakout of our local match estimation. We have Medicaid, a lot of different sources that we use for the local match. We do Medicaid runs and receive Medicaid payment revenue for those. A portion of those go to the Putnam County. We have in-kind support. And we have county distributions that we receive from the government, and the EDIT tax and our Older Americans Act. So West Central Indiana Economic Development District, you may or may not be familiar with, but they're the AAA, they're the Area Agency on Aging that serves Putnam County. And a portion of their Title III-B funds, they actually help to support transit operations. And then we have a portion of bus advertisement. So when we have buses on the sides of our, ads on the sides of our buses, we charge a fee for that, and then that revenue gets applied to the local match. There is a gap, you know, we're still needing about $12,000 expected in local revenue to support the Putnam County operations. I'm just providing that to you for informational purposes. And then the last thing I gave you is a reference sheet for one of the routes that we do, and you're welcome to say a few words if you want, but we've got the core structure of what we provide in Putnam County is the express route. It's kind of like a bus route. It's got fixed places that it goes. And it's actually called point deviation, which means we can go up to 3/4 of a mile off of that route to pick somebody up. So it's not quite like a city bus. It's not as rigid as that. So if somebody calls in and says, I'm gonna be near the library, I'm, you know, 1/4 of a mile off of there, can you pick me up at my home? And we can incorporate that into the route. So that's what we do specifically and regularly in Greencastle, but we also have a north and south sweep service. So that's kind of the door-to-door where we go out and we take those scheduled appointments and actually come up with a route to bring them in to Greencastle and back out for services, in addition to our Medicaid runs. Did you want to add anything? You're in the spotlight, literally. So I should have worn my
I
sunglasses.
just wanted to say that on the express route, if they ride on that, it only costs them $1 each time they get on the bus. And it really helps our community. I get so many calls saying they appreciate us so much. Now, the other rides for demand, they are $3 each way, but still, that's not a bad price, especially when you live out in rural areas.
Chris, I had a question. Are there people taking the bus to and from work? Because we've got a work issue, and I didn't know, does this provide a need, or is it not as regimented that you know that the bus will be there at 8 o'clock and can drop you at wherever you're working?
So as long as they call in and it's within our working hours, and most of the time we're like 8 to 4, because some of our drivers start like at 6 in the morning, but they have routes that we have contracts with that we actually have to be at their house at a certain time, clear as far as Roachdale and the northern area, and as far as Cloverdale. So in that 6 to 8 period, I really don't have anybody, but I do have 2 people that can pick them up around 8 o'clock, but then we get off at 4:30, and so it kind of hinders the normal 8 to 5 working hours or whatever.
So I would add on to that, because in our other counties, we do have slightly extended hours that have been supported by local match funds to do that, because there was a need for employment, especially workforce development, and we provide Ivy Tech transportation in Bloomington and Monroe County. But those usually we have to kind of sit down and say, where's the need? How much, driver support do we need, and what kind of local funds do we need to support that? But we're very flexible for responding to that.
As I looked at the schedule, that was going to be one of my questions is it time to maybe sit down with our employers and kind of review the schedule and see what their needs are? And, because when I look at this, it's not really serving any of our employers based on the pickup times and things, so.
Right.
And given, we've had some pretty significant changes in our work environment the last couple of years. The other question I had on, here you've got county government distributions. Does that include our city contribution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
that's what I thought.
government, that's just kind of the government contribution.
Okay.
Yep.
So it appears you have a local match balance of $12,234.50.
Correct.
How do we fill that need?
Well, we do it through, anybody who's willing to donate, give any kind of particular contract service. DePaw, if we can get some DePaw contract work that we do, increased Medicaid, that's just it, we piece it together. If you have any suggestions on where we might be able to get some of that,
My wife's a
certainly.
former mayor, and she
Yeah.
is so glad this finally
yeah.
happened, and I think an awful lot of people are really happy with the service.
Yes.
In the 2019 county government distribution, how much is the city in for, and how much is the county in for?
10 and 5, so the city has been paying 10, and then the county has been paying 5.
Right.
Historically, that has not changed since
Many other
over 10
cities-
I
years.
think actually the first year, I was gonna say maybe the first year the county didn't pay anything.
Yeah, that's right.
It could be.
Yeah, because I know we tried to work with the county and got them to start.
So none of the other cities that you're servicing, when you talk about going up into Bainbridge or other areas, are paying anything into this?
No, not currently.
Have you ever asked them?
I don't know that I haven't personally, but I've been CEO since January. I've been over transit for a few years, but I don't know that anybody did historically in
And
the
I'm
past.
not-
I'd be happy to,
No, I'm not criticizing.
Yeah.
I can't speak for council, but I think, my sense is we want to do it right because this is a very valuable service for our people in town. But I'd also like to see, and I'll say it on the record, I'd like to see the other cities and counties that are,
Yep.
and even the county stepping up to the plate a little bit more. It's not just you're stressing this is not just a Greencastle service.
correct.
So I think it's important to at least ask them to put a little skin in the game. Not looking for huge numbers, but
I'd recommend splitting that out, put a line for the city and a line for the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can do that, yeah.
yeah, if you would, because I think maybe that'll help some of the other cities.
And I would think this is, other things being equal, there's more of a need in the county where people have to travel larger distances than somebody who might be able to get from here to there within the city.
So,
Do you keep any statistics on who rides, I mean, how many you pick up at Bainbridge, or how many you pick up in Cloverdale, and how far you travel? I mean,
Yeah, we
that might
keep,
be a compelling
we keep
argument.
very, it's kind of rudimentary in some sense. It's a paper manifest is what it's called, and then we bring it back and we put them into spreadsheet form. So we, aggregate that monthly with fuel, revenue miles, number of trips, things like that. I don't know if you have anything locally that you do by location. I mean, we could certainly do that. I did some of that for Monroe County, in order to get a percentage of the number of people who were typically provided.
Nothing else crudely, what percentage are residents of Greencastle
Right.
versus people who are not residents of
Right.
Greencastle?
Right, yeah.
For us to sell additional
County
revenues,
versus
we
city.
need those kind of statistics, that kind of data.
I think you need that data maybe to go to some of the other
Sure.
people and say, hey,
Well, the distance traveled also.
it's big.
It's one thing to travel 3 miles, it's another
Just
to
knowing our-
25 miles.
Just knowing our business, I would say 80% is in the Greencastle area.
That doesn't surprise.
No, but 20% isn't, and those are the longer trips, so,
Right.
But I think it'd be nice to have those numbers.
yeah.
I will get those to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kristen Clary Kristen Right Wave. Kristen is our economic development official, and so make the introduction, and she gathers the HR managers on a regular basis, and it might be worthwhile to meet with them, maybe come and participate in one of those future meetings, and, there may be some desire, if the service is expanded, it could be a possibility of getting some additional revenue too.
Right, perfect.
The
I'll give you one of my cards before I leave.
The majority of employees in Greencastle and Putnam County businesses are not city residents.
Right.
the majority are coming from somewhere else, and I have no idea how much of the need could be met for the employers, but, and, you know, for a $12,000 deficit here, we're not very far off in terms of covering the costs if
Right.
just a few people would step up and provide a little bit of support.
Well, I mean, one of the interesting numbers coming from this guy, right, is it a problem that people can't get to work? I mean, I'd love to work at XYZ, but I don't have the means of getting there. I mean, if that number is 0, then okay, but if it's significant, then we might want to approach the problem.
So even for emergencies where, let's say, somebody has a car but it breaks down, rather than missing a day of work, if they know they can call rural transit, still get to work, that helps both the employee and the employer.
That's something you all can discuss with the HR people.
I don't know your business, but right now, one of the local industries is running buses 3 shifts a day to bring people from Indianapolis to a local plant. I don't know whether that fits your,
Yeah.
you know.
We are a public transit provider. We've got regulations on the Fed level, so we can't compete with private at all. So I have to be real careful, and I step on toes sometimes, because I'm compliance, I'm the numbers person too, but I'm the compliance person. And I want to be respectful of that, so we can't do anything that's called charter service. Anything, we can design routes like what we do for PCCS, we do that for their clients, but anybody from the public technically can get on those routes too. If it were totally dictated by that particular contract service, then we would be doing contract.
The other limitation they have is they can't cross territory lines. Early on, we asked if rural transit could provide a route to Hendricks County to some of the employers there. They can't cross the Hendricks County line. So literally, they can drive to the line, and if Hendricks County brings their bus to the line, they got to transfer buses.
Because they have another 5311, yeah. It's,
So there's some goofy rules in this mess too.
I'm not speaking for the county or the city, but we need to have you stay here.
yeah, well,
We've got to find the solution.
Yep, we appreciate the support, we appreciate being here, we've got a great crew, people are really respect our
Anything we can
drivers.
help you to, make sure the buses are full, we'll,
Yep.
that's helpful too.
Or help nudge some other places to maybe donate, let us know.
Okay,
If we need to have the council pick us up at our home for, what is it, $1 to come to city council meetings, whatever
there
we
you
have to do
go,
to help.
yeah. You're always welcome, but you have to pay the fare just like everybody
They're
else.
happy to.
And we have to be done by 4 o'clock. I like that.
Motivation,
Otherwise,
right?
we have to walk.
Thanks for what you do.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for joining us this evening.
Have a good night.
Okay, we have 3 street closure requests this evening. The first one, Chris, if you want to come out, Chris Weeks from Wasser is here, and he is asking for street closure in this coming weekend. So, turn the floor over.
So we had an opportunity come to us rather recently where the Indiana Region Classic Car Club of America would like to come to Greencastle and visit our community. This is a car club that would include some Packards and very, very nice cars, and the owners of these cars would be good customers for our community. So I think it would benefit everyone involved. So we are talking about July 21st at lunch, them coming in, having lunch. It would be a good opportunity for the city to promote itself to a larger community. We're looking at 15 to 35 cars. We've also made arrangements to have Jinsey Bingham come speak to these individuals, which is a great opportunity for the city to highlight our history of entrepreneurship and locally owned businesses in Greencastle. So I think it's a very good opportunity for everyone involved, and I ask your support in allowing us to close our streets so these cars can have a nice place to park.
As long as you agree to provide Jinsey with a dessert.
Chocolate
I will be the first to say, let's pass this request.
We're not going to impact any other businesses, are we, with this?
No.
Okay.
You probably want to make sure you talk to the bank across the street because they're open Saturday morning, but
We always leave the entryways
Yeah.
to the banks open.
Okay.
Okay. So
Thanks.
it's just half block closure then, basically?
Yes, yeah, it's within the boundaries that we've always used in the past that allow the banks to have entryways and exits.
I'll second the motion, but I do have to ask, do you think there'll be any Studebakers there?
Maybe, don't tell Jincy.
Okay, because I believe the building you were in was a Studebaker dealership.
It was a Packard dealership.
Was it Packard? Okay.
It was a Packard
Okay.
dealership.
Okay, well, then
and-
you already said they're gonna have some Packards,
Yeah.
so, well, good.
Well, that'd be kind of cool.
Saying corrected, yeah.
We have a motion and a second to approve the street closing for Wasser Brewing Company. Is there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, thanks, Chris. We'll get you the paperwork and then check with Lori on the insurance and all that stuff.
No.
Okay. Next up is Matt Abatai. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. He is with DePauw University, and they are requesting the closing of Hannah Street for an upcoming event in August.
Yeah, so on August 22nd is the first day of classes, and traditionally, our Center for Diversity and Inclusion, when housed in Rector Village, used to host a first day of classes lunch on the Ubben Quad. Given the move to our new location, our hope was to utilize Hannah Street between Jackson and Indiana. We will be catering the event through Putnam Inn, and so we have an anticipated attendance of usually around 300 students, faculty, staff, and community members that attend. And it's pretty much just during the lunch hour. We've cushioned that based on conversations we've had with our facilities and management team, so that around 9 o'clock we would block off the street, and 4 o'clock we would remove barriers so that we would not impede on traffic for faculty, staff coming into the university that use Hannah.
That's early enough, Matt, that I assume there aren't any athletic events going on, because that's a main thoroughfare to all those athletic fields.
They should be, 4 o'clock, they'll have students walking down, and some students might have to drive around on the first day, but I think,
For the sake of the community, is this open to anyone who'd like to come by?
Yeah, it is open to anyone who'd like to come by, and we're working with our campus events, so they have a good understanding of all the events that are going on campus, and we worked with campus safety and let them know about this, and they were like, if you all give us the green light, then they're okay with then going about the safety and regular procedures we go for
I
large
think
scale
what Dave
events
was
like
asking
this.
is if some of the neighbors come over, or is that gonna?
Oh, I don't think that'll be an issue. Like, I think especially for our center, I think we're hoping to increase our engagement with the neighbors in the area, given sometimes the like nighttime programming that our students like to do on that basketball court. And so, whatever like healthy relationships we can build, I think the better moving forward.
I want to watch Councilman Cohen throw down slams with, at the basketball hoop with.
No.
That group.
Not gonna happen, but I went to the water festival last year that was on the basketball court there. It was actually the staff person doing it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So, I'll make that motion, maybe with the caveat, like we usually do, that you do let the neighbors know.
Okay.
That's a normal thing. We just ask that you put something on the doors, and because I'll forget by tomorrow, if you could let the athletic department know.
I can.
Just I'll try to remember to, but I'll probably forget.
Do you all know, does the university have record of which residences around the space are not owned by DePauw?
I was gonna say, is there any that
Are there
aren't?
any
Are there
now?
any left?
I don't think there are any now.
I might be the closest, so you're fine.
I think on Hannah
You're
Street
3
there,
blocks
pretty much
away.
everybody south of there is either a DePaul, there's the one house that's right next door that's owned by a DePaul alum.
Yeah, that's the trustee's home, yeah.
And
Don't take that back. That's just a normal thing we say. I'm just kind of in the habit of making
Okay.
that.
we have a motion, second?
Second the motion?
We have a motion and a second to approve the request to close Hannah Street. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye. There might be some on Indiana Street that are local people, I don't know.
Just kind of look at the neighborhood and go accordingly.
Okay.
Just take a look.
I don't think there's any on Jackson Street, though.
I just let Stevie know, and I think we'll be fine.
Will do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, our third street closure request is from Sheila Holloway. She's with the Putnam County Substance Abuse Committee. So,
Hi.
I'm requesting to close the street. We did it last year. This is like the third year that we've had an event for Putnam County. Last year it was the Lights of Hope. We've got a committee now, and we're wanting to close Franklin Street where Indiana and Jackson Street, you know, right in there. You know what I'm saying? And it would be from 3 to 8. We'd set up at 3, start the event at 4, and then stop at 7 and clean up to 8 o'clock. We would have Bobby Lancaster, she would be singing, and we also have Terry People from HCC. And then we have 4 speakers that, it's for the month of recovery, recovery month. And we're gonna have people, you know, speaking, telling their testimony about that.
Is that a Saturday, September?
Yep, it's a Saturday.
And
Yeah.
obviously, because you're speaking to the television, the community's invited to come.
Yes, the community is invited to come. We hope everybody comes. It would be a great blessing to get the stigma out of Putnam County.
Is that the first Saturday, out of curiosity?
It is, I think.
I didn't have it.
It'd be the
No,
second. If it's the
the
8th, it'd be
eighth.
the second.
Second
Yeah.
Saturday, all right.
Yeah.
It's right after Labor Day weekend.
Taste of Putnam County is the 7th? Yeah, I think it's the 7th.
We've approved this in the past.
Yes,
I don't think
last
there's
year.
been any issues, and it's
no.
certainly a worthwhile.
It worked out
If
really
this in some
good.
way can help the opioid crisis,
Yes, yes.
I move.
Please
that we
notify
approve-
the neighbors.
Approve the request.
Excuse me?
Second.
Just please notify the neighbors,
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah,
businesses, anybody, if you could just put something in the doors of the neighbors, just saying this
Okay.
is happening.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
courtesy.
okay. Yes.
All right, we got a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thanks. We have one more.
We have one more, I guess. I don't,
She probably has.
do you have the paperwork with you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, this is, you were at the park board meeting.
Yes, I went to the
That's right,
park.
okay.
Good evening, my name is Becky Hunsinger. I'm representing the Greencastle Youth Softball Association. We are going to host a triathlon on August the 11th at Roban Park. The Aquatic Center is where we'll be doing the swimming. The biking will be next, and I have a map here if you'd like to look at it. We're using your streets, so that's why I was asked to come here, is because of the streets. I'm not asking for any street closings at all. So I'll pass around this map too. We have 2 different events. We're gonna do a purple sprint, which is 200 meters swimming. Then you're gonna do a 4-mile bike. And then the last thing you'll do is a 1-mile run. And then the second thing we're gonna offer is a little bit longer. It's called the Silver Sprint. And that's gonna be a 400-meter swim, a 8-mile bike, and a 2-mile run. Now, when I say run, I mean walk as well. You do not have to be a runner in order to do this. You will have to have your own equipment. We will set up a transition area right outside the Aquatic Center on the west side of the building there. That's where we'll end up doing our transition area. We'll have everything roped off, and then we'll be going out on Tennessee Street for the biking part, and then we'll be heading out on Wood Street for the running part. The running part will take us down Wood Street to Seminary, and then I believe it's over to South Arlington, and then over the back entrance there, Anderson there, back into the park. The biking part will take us out pretty much Tennessee Street to Wood Street, go to Gardenside, hit Washington Street, go through Avenue D, and then catch the People's Pathway there right in front of the Napa, and go out just about where 240 and the People's Pathway intersect. And then they'll turn around and come back to make it a total of 4 miles.
So you're gonna be crossing 231 Indianapolis Road.
No,
Okay.
we're going to
Okay,
turn
not
right
231.
there before on 240 and Indianapolis Road. The biking part, we are not gonna go across.
Okay.
The problem is, how many volunteers do you get? If you get a lot of volunteers, you can have people stop. The other option is, I've talked to Tom Sutherland in regards to possibly using a reserve officer to help us when we cross the major roads. He made that available, an option for us. I'm trying, since we're offering this to young people, 8 years and above, so we don't want to really cross the major roads. So if we do the walk part, run at the end, it'll take us down Seminary Street where there is a sidewalk, and then it'll take us, like I said, South Arlington Street. I think everything has a sidewalk, so no one really has to be in the road if they don't want to be. And if it's, more safe for the kids, I think they should be on the sidewalk. But there will be a person stationed at every point of turn. There should be somebody there to say, here's the direction. So you should be in sight of all the participants. Questions?
Tom?
Sutherland?
I assume the silver would just be, you just do the
I'm
lap
thinking,
twice.
I'm thinking, I went and did I went and did it today, and I was like, do we really want to, adults-wise, I can see them passing, going across the road. But I'm not 100% sure how many participants we will have. So if we don't have a large amount of the silver, we'll end up probably saying if there's not enough, they'll have to just do the purple instead.
Okay.
And that way, if we do possibly do the silver, we may go all the way out to the big
Okay, so you
sports
wouldn't just
bar.
do the lap twice, then?
Or we could do the lap twice. Not 100% sure if we're gonna take it all the way out to the big sports park, do a loop around that, because that's actually the 8 miles. If you went
Okay.
out and did that, you crossed the road and went back.
Yeah.
I still need to make that decision as far as how many participants will be there the day of? Will we have enough to have volunteers to go out there and give them directions?
We will provide the assistance with the run at Seminary Bloomington like we do with all the 5Ks that the park sponsors. If there's assistance that's needed out on the east side with the bike, then we will provide officer assistance out there also.
I mean, I don't want to add to your department, but on the other hand, I guess I feel more comfortable when it's our reservists or our officers dealing with the main roads than having volunteers go out and try to stop traffic.
Amen.
So,
Because you will cross 240, there is a crosswalk there where it intersects with to get out to Walmart, or are you just turning around there at 240?
Turning around.
Okay, so you're not going past
No.
out to Walmart or anything?
The main problem that I thought of is right there, 10th Street, is that where you go from Avenue D over to the People's Pathway? I would say, probably should have an officer there. Yeah, I don't want, but I'm thinking like when you tell a person to turn from maybe Wood Street to Gardenside, you would have somebody just directing you
Yeah,
to say
that's
that.
fine.
But the major roads, I would ask Tom Services.
I'll make a motion with the caveat that you work with Tom to make sure that we can provide the,
Good point. I'm very blessed to have him as the president of the Greencastle Youth Softball Association, so
I know.
I kind of get that, he gives me the nod as, yeah, we can make that happen for you. I presented to him this as a fundraiser for the girls.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much why we're doing it. And plus triathlons, not too many people have done them.
No,
DePaul has
it's
done them,
different.
but this is the first outdoor one, so we'll see how it goes.
and we're pleased that Tom volunteers in the community that way.
Well, and because of my position, not only with the city, but as the president of the league, if we have enough volunteers, then I will use my car, and I will be one of the police officers that
Okay.
assist with traffic.
So you are incorporated then, right?
Yes, ma'am.
501.
So,
Yeah.
what I'll need is some kind of insurance document.
I have that.
Okay, great. And then if you have a waiver or a sign-up form for everybody who's gonna participate, I'll wanna take a look at the language and put in, and Tom can give it to me.
Okay.
Something that says that we're indemnified from any liability.
Okay.
That's standard for races when we allow those.
And before we close this, do you want to tell the TV audience how they can sign up?
Yes, people can sign up through the greencastleyouthsoftball.com. We have our website, and you can go on there and you can look at, it's actually under outdoor triathlon, and you can register there. We hope you do register ahead of time. That would be wonderful, so we know how many shirts to give out that day. We've gone to several people to sponsor, and it's open to age group of 8 to 14 for the young adult children, and then from 15 to adult will be the other age group. So hopefully people will come. August the 11th at 8 a.m. is when it starts. 7 a.m. is when we'll get started setting up for it.
It sounds like a great event.
Thank you.
We're glad the city doesn't have any liability, and it's all on Chief Sutherland.
Yeah.
Well, we have a motion. Anybody want to provide a second?
I think Dave just did.
Dave, is that a second?
It's a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the road routes for the triathlon. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. If you can send us a... Okay. Next on the agenda is department reports. So most of those were included in your packet.
As Rod, I'm sure, is racing up here, I would normally do this under the council part, but I just want to say to Rod, to the police, fire, streets, everybody who was involved in the 4th of July, that was an amazing event. It might have been one of the best 4th and fireworks shows I've seen. We are really blessed not only to have, what Rod does in the park department, but the way our police and firemen handle themselves out there. I was out there, big chunk of the day, was really amazing. So please pass that on to your forces as well.
Thank you.
Now you can sell your next project.
All right, sounds good. I want to thank the Public Works Department too. They came out and provided some signs prior to, and then picked them up after the event. So they have the whole city team is just that. It's a team. Everybody has a part that everybody, whenever we are in need, everybody helps out. And I guess to start with, I'd like to thank the fire department for coming out and watering the lawn at Roban Park, located around the new band shelter. And that it's just, we have a great team. So I would like to just start off with yes, the 4th went great. The headlines and the banner graphics said it all. Everything was the fireworks, the band shelter. We just had rave reviews, and I think that the whole day went well. And the new band shelter sure made that Jacob Bryant band sound pretty good. So yes, and that we're looking in now towards the end of the season. We have at the Greencastle Aquatic Center, Sunday, August 10th will be our last day. So I hope that people come out and enjoy it, especially during the week of the fair. It's usually our slowest week, so if you want, a nice swim with less crowd, that'd be the weekend or the week to do it. And then on looking at
What did you say the last day was?
Sunday, August 10th, I believe is the last day.
How's revenues been out there so far this year? I mean, it's been a hot summer.
Hot summer. We are within, I'd say, $3,000. The last time we checked it, it was like we're within $3,000 what we made last year, going from start to middle of last week, I believe it was. And then the concession stand's a little bit behind what we had last year. But what's neat is I had Aaron look at the schedule. Every Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening through the month of July, with the exception of 2, we have private rentals and at the Aquatic Center. So like this week, they've already had 2 during the week, and then we're looking at a busy weekend as well. So that's
What's a private rental cost?
Depends on how many people you have, but usually they're like a 2-hour shot. And now I don't have the brochure here, but it's like $175 for up to 75 people. If you're looking at a bigger one, it's like $300 for a 2-hour party at the pool. So a lot of that, what we charge dictates how many people we need to lifeguard a party.
Sure.
And that, so yes, but it's really reasonable. And that was one of the comments that Aaron has passed on to me that we've received this summer when people come in for our rentals. That's it. That's all. So yeah, it's always nice to know that people enjoy it. So.
When you said $3,000, I assumed it was down, or you would have said
down 3,000 from what we were at last year. Yes. Now the season started out nice and hot, and we were hit. Okay, but I think that because we've had a lot of the rain and then we've had the extreme hot, and during extreme hot afternoons, attendance goes down a little bit.
Yeah. In terms of percentage, what percentage is that? 3,000?
Sorry, I did not look at a percentage. I don't even want to try guessing. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Okay. So upcoming programs. Let's jump into that. We have a week from this Saturday, July 21st. We are hosting the Indiana High School Disc Golf Tournament at Big Walnut Sports Park. We have that 19-hole disc golf course, and we're, like I said, it's perfect for the beginner. We have wooded holes, we have open holes, we have long holes, we have short holes. We have tricky holes, we have those that break to the left and those that break to the right, and they have chosen our disc golf course, Big Walnut location, as the site for the Indiana High School disc golf tournament. Should should be a good time. It's really nice to see people. We get a chance to show it off, let me put it that way. Upcoming programs, National Root Beer Float Day. Yes, we're highlighting A&W Root Beer Floats on August 6th at the Aquatic Center, $2 float specials. Back to School Splash Bash. Okay, let's try that again. Back to School Splash Bash has been scheduled for Sunday, August 12th, with school starting Wednesday, August 8th. We're open through the weekend. That Sunday night's our last one, so we're going to offer free swim, free admission, and of course, specials at the Snack Shack. Soggy Doggy Day is something that we're bringing back this year, Tuesday evening, August 14th. The pool is already closed for this season to our human swimmers, so now we're opening it for our four-legged friends, okay? It's $5 per dog. Of course, the owners are free that night. But I do need to note that dogs only in the water, according to the Indiana State Health Department, only dogs in the water. People cannot swim with them. That's going to be tough. Yes, I know. Okay. And then, of course, we're looking towards the fall as summer concludes. We've already scheduled 2 Brickmania programs. It's Hobbit Day on September 22nd and Crack the Vault Day on October 16th. And that just leads in with what happened in Greencastle 85 years ago on October 23rd, 1933. So can anybody answer that? Of course, you're reading ahead. Yes, that's the day Dillinger visited Greencastle, okay, and robbed the Central National Bank. But, so we have a small bank coin kit that has a robber breaking into it, and we're going to offer that for our special Lego project that night. And that, so, any questions regarding our last month or upcoming programs? Yes,
I
sir.
got one. It was brought up in the story in the Banner Graphic about the condition of the tennis courts.
Okay. So you're asking about conditions. You're asking me about pickleball. I'm reading your mind here. No, you asked me that ahead of time. So I'm looking at, the same article, and I'm sure that some of the people who have called you have called me this last week as well. So we'll go ahead and address that. Yes, the pickleball courts, we're going to be doing some improvements to them.
Well, I was going with the tennis courts, the fact that the tennis courts have deteriorated in such a short period of time.
Right, and I'm letting you know that we'll be doing some improvements this fall to correct that situation, okay? Either later this summer or early this fall.
Is there any kind of warranty or anything with that? Because
yes.
Yeah,
okay.
and our engineers are on top of it, and
Right.
they have been doing core sampling and to try to figure out what exactly the issue is, and I haven't heard the conclusion yet, so.
Because if I remember right, when the pickleball courts were put in, there was a little bit of a problem installing those that they had to go back over.
I cannot.
Resurfacing, if I remember right.
I cannot give you any information in regards to that, okay? Meaning, I don't know the information, not that I can't give it to you. I just don't know the answer to that question. However, like Lori said, our engineers are following up on it, and I have been told the contractor will take care of it, okay? That's it.
Contractor's very cooperative.
Yes.
Right, as I told you earlier tonight before we started, there is a growing youth tennis program.
Correct.
Middle school tennis program, high school tennis program.
Correct.
A focus on it that hasn't been there for decades.
Right.
And part of the conversation has been eliminating a tennis court or two to provide more pickleball. And my question is, east of the current pickleball courts, it looks to me, when I went over there today, as a result of those conversations, that you could add a couple of pickleball, we'd have to take a tree or two down.
Right.
And probably some groundwork to be done, but it seems to me that additional pickleball courts should not come at the expense of tennis courts. But,
right. Okay.
And what I would ask is for you and the park board to talk about this. I know you've got other options
Right.
out there, not just in the park, but in a couple of months, is it reasonable to think in September you could come back with further thoughts about, I mean, the pickleball explosion is very real from everything I
Right,
can tell.
and I think really it is, all racket sports are coming back. And I think if you look at the statistics with team sports, I'm not gonna go into which sports, but a lot of them have concussion issues right now. So I think you're seeing a growth in individual sports that hopefully, yeah, you can still hit yourself with a racket, but, you know, the concussion and the injury aspect of some of these sports are smaller or you know, less chance of getting hurt. So I think that's why you're seeing a growth in individual sports.
But with pickleball, what we're seeing, which is a good thing, is we're seeing an aging population.
Correct.
And they have adopted the pickleball. The Miller School Project brought in that population.
Correct.
You know, I want to support the tennis, but I've also seen the pickleball group over at DePaul trying to find places to play.
Correct.
It's great that we have all these people that want to use this.
Good problem to have.
It is.
It is a very good problem to have. And yes, I think what you're alluding to is the article in the Banner Graphic that the last park board meeting, we had pickleball players who were in the tournament. We had 32, I think 32 players, 24 teams. 24 teams on July 4th in a tournament at Roban Park. They actually marked out temporary courts on the tennis courts that were there. So they came and requested more pickleball courts, but in the meantime, that article has stemmed some phone calls, and I think some of you may have received a few of those. I was told they were going to call you. That about let's just say keeping our tennis courts the way they are and looking at, another location, additions, that kind of thing. Yes, and the idea that you had about going to the east was brought up to me as well. And there's a couple problems, couple issues with that property that we'll have to look into. But I think a possibility in September bringing something back. What the park board stated, they kind of held off on any kind of decisions until we can look into it further and come up with a different plan.
Understandably,
It'd be pretty well settled land, because it was where the water tower.
Well, yes, but I know somebody very close to me who planted a tree, which can be moved, hopefully, 18 years ago, tulip poplar, but at the same time, the base for that water tower is still sitting there. All they did is mounded dirt over the top of it, and that goes, the footings are quite deep. So that would be the issue right off the bat. So, but we can look into it.
Is there any really Big Walnut to expand?
There's always room in our park system to expand, and Big Walnut would be one area, yes. So there's.
The nice thing about expanding in Roban with the pickleball courts is it makes a tournament that much more conducive.
Yes, correct, yes, correct.
We're also fortunate that there's a couple of local people who've kind of championed this, and they're
Yes.
providing lessons and things like that to help the sport grow locally.
We've already lost 2 tennis courts to pickleball.
Why
We've had long debates about this.
Yeah, I don't want to take one over the
Well,
other.
but we can, what the park board will do is we left the August meeting to hear from more citizens in regards to this. And yes, we can probably come up with a plan by September. But the idea came up that, yes, the tennis courts are going to be reworked, tennis courts, pickleball courts are going to be reworked. Is there a chance to do something then? But we'll talk about it, we'll come up with a plan.
That's great, thank
Okay?
you.
All right, any other questions regarding,
National Night Out, I have it as August 7th. What time?
Tuesday, August 7th, it's now, we were told to be ready by, Tom's here, be ready by 5 o'clock start, is that correct?
Yes, 5 to 8.
5 to 8 p.m. at Roban Park, yes.
Great program.
Okay. We have a lot of activities scheduled that night, and it's usually packed.
What is that date again, August what?
Tuesday, August 7th.
Okay.
From 5 to 8 p.m.
Thank you.
All right?
How's the band shelter coming?
Good. It served its purpose very well on July 4th. The Tuesday night prior, we held Park Fest on it. July 4th, of course, we had a number of bands, culminating with Jacob Bryant's band. And then Joe Spiker and Jill Spiker are very accommodating to it. And I will let you know that we have the evening of worship, Sunday evening, this weekend, has been scheduled for Roban, and after discussing it with them, the band shelter floor will be ready for that concert series as well. So, okay.
And that's in support of Beyond Homeless.
I believe that's what that project is for, yes, okay? Yeah, I don't want to quote me on that, but yes, it sounds right.
So
Okay.
what's the date for 100% completion?
At this time, I cannot give that to you, okay? But it's being worked on, and everything is coming together, and it'll be done, I'm sure, soon, okay? Yep. Okay, anything else? All right, well, you all have a good evening.
As Rod steps away, I'd also like to add a appreciation to the Celebrate 4 committee. They provide a lot of the volunteers that worked with our city staff. And then also, we had quite a few sponsors that provided the financial support for a variety of things throughout the day, including the fireworks. So we appreciate the support of the community to bring about that successful event.
Also, this VCO students who
Yeah, we-
came and
yeah, we
not
had a lot
only
of DePaul
sold,
students.
and it's a group of DePaul incoming freshmen who sell stuff that night to the blanket, but most importantly, they come back early the next day and clean the park up. So,
And they helped with the Rokiki Run,
They
and
helped with the
several other
Rokiki Run,
events throughout the day.
so.
So, a lot of good people helping out.
We do a special shout out to Jessica Hartman.
Yeah,
because
Jessica's,
she's put in a whole lot of-
Jessica's chair of the Friends of the Park, and she did a great job organizing things and keeping everybody together. And it's a good core group that comes together every year to pull off that event.
And no lost kids.
Yeah, no lost kids.
Just for the record, Rod, I can say it now.
Didn't, yeah, you don't have to worry about jinxing anything, right?
Okay, any other questions of department heads or anything like that?
Is Brad here?
Brad?
It's not.
Come on down.
He is, okay, here.
He's kind of in the shadows back there.
I have personally thanked Brad, but I wanted to do it publicly too. I had caught when I turned on to Alban Pond Road in the morning, it was really hard to see. Every once in a while I'd pull out in front of a car, and because the foliage had really grown up.
Oh.
And I found the downtown guy when I was thinking about it, because I'd just gone
Yeah, Ricky.
to come in from work, and I pulled him aside and said, "Hey, can you pass this along to Brad or whoever?" And by that afternoon, they had been out there with the mower and cleaned up the trees and really did a good job. So I really appreciate the prompt service on that.
As I say, he just caught me right at the right time.
Right at the right time. So anyway, I
Guys doing
appreciate
all right
that.
in the heat? It's been a hot,
We've had to watch the guys more.
I bet.
So,
Anyway, thank you, Brad.
yeah, thank you.
Brad, you are as frugal as anybody in the world that I know. And I'm not casting aspersions on any other department heads. But when I reviewed the city claims today, and it said you put a new engine into a 2003 dump truck.
Yes.
I'm thinking that's 15 years old.
Yes.
And then I asked the mayor what a new dump truck would cost. What would you say to that question, roughly?
Roughly, with how we dress it out, about 70,000, somewhere around there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was a little too high with that.
Well, it's still
Sorry.
10% of the cost of doing that to put a new engine in. I just tip my hat to you.
I bet it's more than
Well,
that.
this is a one-ton truck. Now, the bigger truck, yeah, it's more than that.
Yeah, okay, I was thinking of the bigger one, yeah.
The one we just had the engine, it was the
The
one-ton.
city should be
so.
very proud of your frugal nature and what you do to keep things going long beyond what most of us would do. Thank you.
Keep it about 3 more years, Brad, we'll be the same age as our incoming students at DePaul.
Well, you know, I do got an 87 roller.
That is older.
That's older than me.
That's older than Tyler.
We are including money in the budget to replace the roller next year.
But we did a couple years ago replace the engine in that. So.
Matt, with some of your equipment, you ought to be having a conversation with the Putnam County Museum.
But we have come a long ways, on this.
Tip of the hat to you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Any other questions for department heads or anything? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're free to go and enjoy the rest of the evening with your families. Next, we have reports, and I do have a conversation that we can have about housing, but I was wondering if maybe we want to do that at the end of the meeting so other folks can leave. I'll hold that, and I'll just mention briefly a couple things. Also want to thank all the volunteers that help us with First Friday. It was a gorgeous evening this past Friday. Great crowds, and the bands were from out of town and brought new people to the downtown, and a lot of good comments made, and Again, just a lot of good folks around the community. Tammy Van Rensselaer at the Development Center, Main Street, kind of does all the groundwork, organizes that, gets everybody on board, and she's done a great job with that. I was asked before the meeting about the traffic light. They do have the foundations in. I did send an email to NDOT today to request an update on the schedule, and I've not heard back from them, but I expect they'll be here shortly. The contractor that's doing that project is working on 3 different communities, and I think we're 3rd on the list as we continue to move forward on that. So hopefully it'll be done by the time school starts. Jackson Street is complete. We're closing out the 2016 Community Crossings Grant, so we'll be eligible to apply later this year for additional funds. Our 2018 projects are underway. The closing on Franklin Street here is, we'll be going across the street with a stormwater pipe, and that is in preparation for the future 231 project. We're trying to get some pipe in the ground in anticipation of that, so that we don't have all of our streets torn up when that project comes through. Over the past several weeks, we do have had a lot of meetings with our department heads, and we have our first draft budgets prepared. Linda will probably speak on some new things that are coming up forth in the budgeting process. So we started a little earlier this year, and so we've had all of our meetings with our department heads and have draft budgets prepared. And pending what is forthcoming about income, we'll have a second round of meetings to do a little fine tuning. Other than that, that's just kind of some real quick odds and ends. So.
Any community center update?
We had a meeting scheduled last month that got canceled at the very last minute by the Y committee. That has been rescheduled for Friday, July 20th. So, and I've sent them a long list of things that we want to talk about, from commitment to the pickleball folks asked, well, could we have an indoor pickleball court? And so
Sand volleyball and
yeah, so
that's
yeah, we don't want to get too carried away with scope creep, but we need to have some discussions as we continue to move forward. For example, can you set up a pickleball court on a basketball court and play indoors like that? Like most basketball courts, you can play volleyball. So there may be some things like that we want to make sure we can take care of as the project moves forward. So we'll be moving forward on that as well. Other questions?
Linda?
I've provided you guys a mid-year financial information. I gave you all of our fund balances. That was your last page. Let's look at this. You'll see that everything has fairly good balances in it. The items that show a couple negatives are grants that we're waiting reimbursement from, or in the case of the local grant, that's the civil engineering, and we need to make a transfer out of one of ours because the city was contributing $10,000 to that. And then there's some money that's given by the county that will account for the other $5,000. So we need to make that happen. And then the police and fire grants we're waiting for funds to be reimbursed for that, but everything else is in the positive. So that's what our middle of the year fund balances are as of June 30th, 2018. Then I went ahead and gave you cash flow projections for mid-year. As you can see, we're going to should end the year with everything in pretty good reserves moving forward. However, if you notice, those reserves continue to dwindle down. So in the budget process, we're going to have to be very mindful of that. And we'll be taking a look at that and see if there's certain things we need to cut and take a look at that. So we're still waiting on some major revenue items to come in. We haven't gotten our estimates for like our local income tax and things like that, so we're just kind of estimating those for next year, but as we go forward, we'll know kind of how we're gonna be closer to 19. And one of the things we need to decide, and I don't know if you want to decide now or at the end of the meeting, is we always have a budget committee, which is 3 council members, and it would be, I'd like to go ahead and see if we could set that committee as to what 3 councilors, as we need to, we're gonna.
Just go ahead and set it now.
Yeah, okay, so,
So we've started this, what, a couple of years ago?
a couple years ago.
It kind of gave Linda an extra eyes. It also, I think, gave council a little more oversight, because when we get the budget packets, they can be a little overwhelming for all of us to look at. So,
I can assure you our department heads have been pretty frugal, so.
yeah. Would 3 people like to volunteer?
I'd like to be on it again.
Same 3 as last year?
Same 3.
All right.
So Stacy, Tyler, and Mark.
And I don't think we actually call it a committee, Lori's, because
No,
then
we
it's,
call it- I don't know what we call it.
help me out, Lori. If it's a committee, it's open, right?
You can just meet with Linda. I don't know that you need to meet together.
I'll stay out of it. Okay.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but we have $6 million in the water operating fund and the sewage operating fund, and we only have about $500,000, $600,000 in the improvement funds. And I keep asking why we're not transferring money from those funds to the improvement funds for future use. Maybe it just doesn't matter, but I've been asking that question for a couple of years now. So I asked my colleagues to sort that out, with my thanks. If it's not hurting anything, I don't have to worry about it, but it just seems to me we should be moving money into improvement funds, not just having it sit out there in general operating funds.
I'll follow up. Okay, I'm going to follow up Dave's question with, why? Why haven't we moved those funds?
Well, really, depending on, right now, we'll go through June, and you're gonna see them dwindle a little bit because there were several, here at the beginning of July, some fairly good loan payments that haven't hit this part of it yet, out of the funds. So there's a lot of, they have several bonds. So in July 1st, some items are gonna come out of here, like, $300,000 and $400,000. So that's gonna dwindle them down. There are things in the budget that, if we would take these items. So there's things like, water tower things to be done, payments to the water, plant, different things. So based on what our budgets are for water and wastewater, we really don't have that much of a surplus, depending on what gets done.
I guess my question would be. I mean, some of these numbers look fairly large for cash balances, but maybe that's because I don't understand. So I would encourage the 3 of you to look at our reasonable cash balances. I mean, obviously you don't want to draw them down to 0.
No, they don't do those budgets. The Board of Works does the water and wastewater budgets. But
there are other numbers here. I mean, it's not the only one, right? That, I mean, $27 million is a lot of money.
Can I make a?
Well, like, if you notice, though, there's $8.2 million sitting in TIF.
Setting where?
In TIF.
Yeah. We know we need that.
271.
For other projects, not
Yeah,
for water and
we'll-
sewer.
So, as we do certain projects, they start dwindling, down.
For example, like TIF there, we've been accumulating funds in anticipation of the community center project.
So what are we accumulating water and sewer funds to the tune of $6 million when you're talking about
Well,
a few
you'll-
$100,000.
But they have budgets that are large. So, I mean, there's things out there that might, like Ed needs to buy $100,000 worth of, meters. And there are different line items that are pretty big, items that, when it's all said and done at the end of the year, there's sometimes not these huge cash balances
Well,
left.
part of what you're looking at is the fact that property tax revenue came in 2 weeks before.
Right now, for like
Yeah,
$1 million
so-
in the general fund, we just got our property tax the 15th of, so a lot of these, MVH, they just got a big property tax payment.
And the same thing would be true at the end of the year, too.
Yeah, and so by the time.
That's fine. Let's let the group sort it out
Yeah,
and come
we'll-
back
we'll
to us
take a
with
look
some
at
kind
it.
of
I'd like to ask,
analysis.
I'll repeat my statement. Just find out what reasonable balance.
Okay, I'd like-
Maybe these are all reasonable.
I'd like to make a suggestion to council. I know this is gonna cause some extra work for you, Linda. I think we ought to call the group a real committee and just post it as a public meeting.
We can do that.
I think I think it's really what's happening, and it's transparent, and if people who are listening at home right now, or our audience of 4, would like to come in, and Eric, sorry, Eric, that way they can all come in, it's totally transparent, because I also know as we talk numbers up here, it gets confusing at home when we start throwing out all those things, and those are all really important points, because Dave, you have brought that up the last couple of years. So let's do it.
I'm not the one to analyze the situation. I just want to kind of
Yeah.
sort it out.
So, let's do it as a committee.
We can transfer, we can take it and put it in one over to the other. It's, it's not a big deal, because they gotta buy something, we take it
Transfer it
out.
back.
Transfer it back. I mean, it's not, but I
Isn't
think
I&I in the operating, I mean, there are a lot of things that are improvements that are in there.
that are in the operating budget. So
Just
if
I like
something,
Adam's
if
suggestion.
something happened, these would be gone real quick.
Do we need a motion?
I don't think we need a motion, we just formed a committee. The committee will report back to council, we'll do it in a public meeting, which Lori, can correct me if I'm wrong.
We know when it's gonna be, and we'll-
Lori can
We'll advertise
correct me
it.
if I'm wrong, but could a council member come to that public meeting and speak from the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same as, yeah, sure,
Okay.
of course.
You don't do a lot of,
You forfeited your right by being on this
Well,
council.
but if it was Plan Commission or BZA, it would be a different.
just asking questions.
Okay, any further questions for Linda? Okay, hearing none, we'll turn it over to council with Adam.
I know the mayor's gonna talk about housing later, but I just wanna say, we've complimented the mayor a lot today, but how well he thinks outside the box. I was at a meeting this morning on housing, which is a complex issue, and the thoughts that were coming forward outside the box to address our solutions at all levels was really great. I know I get in trouble sometimes, but I think the rural transit presentation continues to point to something that I really believe in, that some of the rest of the county needs to help us a little bit here. If you look at, and I don't usually bring this statistic up, but if you look at the last month's fire reports, we had 3 mutual aids given, we received 0. I'm not saying we should not roll our fire department, we definitely should, but we rarely see the mutual aid back, and we are funding, in essence, all of this out of the city, and I just hope that our county officials and some of the other cities can find some creative ways to help us out, just token. And before we know it, the DePaul students will be back, 600+ new ones, so that'll bring a little new life and energy to the city, and hopefully a little bit of cash into our businesses. That's what I got.
I have nothing.
Just want to compliment citizens of Greencastle. I've recently had family from out of town, their first trip ever to Greencastle, and as they drove into town, they were complimentary. They said, "We can't believe how nice the yards and how nice the homes are kept here," and they were just, took them a drive around town, while they were here. And they were just, it was their first time ever seeing Greencastle, and they were just really complimentary of the whole city and how it looked and the property, how well the property owners take care of their property.
Yeah, I just will recognize a life well lived. I posted on Facebook earlier today. Dan Grotenhouse, longtime principal at Tezonicus Intermediate School, passed away yesterday. And Mr. T meant an awful lot to me and a lot to everybody in the city of Greencastle and Putnam County at large, and he'll definitely be missed. And just extend thoughts and prayers to his family. And like I said, you talk about people that leave a big impact and sort of a ripple effect. Mr. T was definitely somebody that did that, and I'll miss him.
Here, here.
Yes, thanks, Tyler. Very well said. Bill, is there any update on 231? I mean, this thing's falling apart. We've got brand new pavement south of town that.
Well, actually, if you drive 231, you'll see very numerous pavement markings and utility markings. They are doing the survey work for the engineering work relative to that project. And as I mentioned earlier, I sent an email up to INDOT today. And one of my other comments in that email was they need to send a chuck hole crew down here to make some repairs and things. We've been, in contact with them at various times to ask for repairs, and this was another one of those times. So hopefully somebody will show up. We've also asked them to redo the crosswalks downtown that were supposed to have been done last fall, and see if they can get those done. Weather kind of interfered with it last fall, so.
Am I remembering right that that's a 2019 project for them?
It's probably closer to 2020 or 21, yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
So they'll probably be back here making some other repairs to
Yeah, I
take
hope
care of
so,
some of
because
the
it's really
deteriorated
bad
pavement.
shape. I mean, the one gentleman that came last month, I mean, he had those pictures. and
Yeah, well, that was another time
testimony.
we try to stay in contact.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think that, we need to have that addressed, and certainly sooner than later, especially if they've not repainted crosswalks in almost a year, so.
I went to Indianapolis today. You can't get there from here and you can't get back. I took 231 and got into probably a 50-car bumper to bumper. So being the smart guy I am, I said, I'm not doing that again, so I decided to take 240. 240's closed.
Yeah.
So I drove on 40, but I didn't want to come up 231, so I took one of the county roads. And I thought, well, this will be great because there won't be any cars. I swear, it was bumper to bumper on the county road. Everyone else had come up with my plan. So FYI, for those of you who are planning to, I guess it's okay to go north now, but.
So how long did it take you to get to Indianapolis via Chicago?
Yeah, that's, so anyway, I just do that. Those of you who are planning to drive to Indy, or east, or south.
It took me nearly an hour.
Or west.
It took me nearly an hour to get to Spencer today.
Yeah, so, anyway. Winter will come and
The cones will go away.
The roads will not die.
But we're happy the state is spending money in our county to repair roads, because sometimes,
It's
other
minor
years, we got the short shrift. Now it's our turn, so.
I have nothing else.
We have to be appreciative. Dave?
The only thing I have is Ivy Tech statewide, 10% of the students meet free and reduced lunch guidelines. 65–70% of them are part-time students, and many of them older adults. Many of them are first generation and lower income families. And to their credit, the Student Nursing Association at the local Ivy Tech campus on July 19th from 11:30 to 1:30, they're going to be collecting non-perishable goods that will be put in a facility where you don't have to sign in or sign out, but if you are in need of food as a student, you have the ability to access that food with nobody asking any questions. And so I intend to do something about that, and just want to put that out there for others. Again, that's July 19th from 11:30 to 1:30. They're calling it the Student Shelf initiative, which I give
Can you give me
credit
the
for.
stat one more time on what percentage qualify?
10% of the Ivy Tech students statewide, the last time I looked, are free and reduced lunch eligible, and 70% of them are going part-time. So, you know, many of them are working
Right.
adults, many of them with kids, they're first-generation college students, and they're trying to make ends meet. And to the credit of the Student Nursing Association, they're trying to do something that helps a little bit in that regard.
It's great. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, next item of business is approval of minutes. There were 3 sets of minutes provided. A special meeting on June 11th, special meeting on June 13th, and the regular session on June 14th.
Move that we approve the minutes for the the 2 special meetings and the 1 regular session meeting.
Second.
There was one typo in the June 11th, Tyler's first name was
First
spelled
name
with an O.
with an O. That's how they spell it in Italy, so.
With the correction, are there any further comments or discussion? Hearing none, if you wish to approve the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 I'll
I'm gonna
abstain.
on the ones on the 11th and 13th, since I wasn't here.
Just abstain on them all. That's what I'm
Okay.
gonna. Because we did it as one motion, so
Yeah.
we'd have to go back and redo it as a,
All right.
I'm abstaining too, because I was not here.
Okay, next item of business is approval of city claims.
I think everybody's probably reviewed them. I'll go over them somewhat quickly. We had payrolls. This month, the payroll was a little higher because of it being a 3 payroll month. $642,547.10. Pensions at $15,065.46. Direct accounts payable at $338,984.96. And regular accounts payable at $158,116.29 for a grand total of $1,154,713.81. Linda always puts this, I haven't mentioned that recently, so thank you, Linda, for putting together the sheet for me on the direct accounts payable. So we've got on the direct accounts payable, that's the $339,000 figure approximately. South Street, $202,357. We had loan payments for police car edit, our general obligation bond, and the final on our park truck for $55,239. Band shell Joe Spiker for $32,146. And there was some park trees for $4,400 to Marcy's Tree Service, plus utilities and insurance and just regular items that get paid every month, about $45,000, make up that $339,000 figure. Under the regular accounts payable, we had 5-alarm fire and safety for some fire equipment for $4,288. Beyond homeless, $10,000 for our city's annual support. Chris Construction for pool maintenance of $34.55. Joe Spiker for tree and stump removal of $1767.50, as well as total storm materials for $17,193. Street materials, there we go. Total street materials for $17,193. Public safety medical service, we had almost $6,000 worth of physicals. And 'tis the season, Spear Corporation, $8,784 for various invoices for pool chemicals, maintenance, and repairs. So I would move for approval of the claims as presented.
Se- Dave.
Dave Murray.
We have a motion and a second on the claims. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have no old business. Next item of business is new business, and this is our annual report on tax abatement resolutions. So Kristen Cleary is here to present those to you for your consideration.
Good evening. As you can see, this is what we've done on an annual basis. We come before you every year about this time. These are for existing companies that have come before you over the last 10 years and requested abatement. And you have granted that abatement both in real property and personal property. And in order for them to stay in good standing, we come before you every year. They file compliance forms with us, with the county assessor and the county auditor's office. And then we bring a resolution before you to pass regarding all those companies in good standing, and we move forward so that they can continue to receive their abatement. Most of them are for 10 years, for real or personal property. Sometimes we have a little bit of an adjustment, but all of them are at various stages. The couple that we've passed in the last couple of years would have been Heartland and Chiyoda and Crown. So those are also all on here. So I think you got them in your packets. But if you have any specific questions on them, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, I'm going to pass the packet on to the mayor and let him handle the reading of the resolutions.
We want to,
For the public's sake, we had the issue last month of an audit needing to be done and having to make adjustments for Phoenix closures. And are we clean here in that regard?
That's hard to tell because we keep copious records on real property. So the real property we can track. The personal property is self-reported based on their personal property tax returns submitted to the assessor's office. So that is when that spiked an inquiry, and so therefore, as best we can tell, yes, we are in good standing based on what they have submitted, but it is self-reporting information.
And will the county office review this to make sure that everything is,
what,
help me
yeah,
out here.
what we're reviewing is actually not their tax return, but their payroll numbers, their salaries, and their investment, because that's what the abatement is based on. We don't see their business personal property tax return. The county now has a policy of auditing most of the businesses in the county. And if there's an error in their reporting of their personal property tax return, the county assessor should pick that up. Now typically they run a couple years behind. I was up in their office earlier this week, and they were asking me about one of the abatements out in the county, and I actually referred them to Kristen because I know Kristen had earlier contacted that company, and there was a question about why they hadn't claimed any abatement. So they were going to follow up with Kristen and the company to make sure that somebody new wasn't filling out the tax return form and filling it out improperly. So.
But we did not identify any of those in the city limits. So within the city, we think that they're all in good standing, and most of them, even if they were newer abatements, they are in process of having other abatements as well. Chiyoda has 6 of them, Heartland has 2, and Crown has 2 as well. So they're used to doing this. So
And overall, they look good to use if they're.
overall, they look great. I do want to point out some things. Ascena is well over employment numbers. Chiyoda is good on their employment. Ascena's at 826. Chiyoda's at 356. Crown is at 735, which is excellent. Way bigger than they anticipated originally. Heartland is at 631. IAC is at 762. And Phoenix is at 104, which is real close to what they wanted to be, for a total employment of 3,414. Total payroll for that is $130,618,999. So average wage per job, and just quick and dirty, you take the total payroll and divide it by you take the total jobs divided by total payroll, is about $38,000 per job. Some of those are going to be less than that. Some of those are going to be higher than that, depending on your skills and your management level and everything else. But we're hitting pretty good right there with what we've done. Then we multiply that out for a LOIT tax, local option income tax of 0.0175, and it's generating $2.285 million in LOIT. So, would they invest and make the decision to expand even without our help? Perhaps. But we definitely know that what we're doing is making an impact and making a difference and really encouraging them to stay local and continue to expand. And a lot of these companies never dreamt that their employment numbers would be as high as they are. Crown expected to go 250, maybe 300, and now we're seeing Crown sitting at 735. So.
They also doubled the square footage.
Yeah, exactly.
So, or more than doubled, I think.
So based on everything that I've reviewed and collected and analyzed, I would definitely recommend approval of all 7 of our companies. The only one that's an anomaly on this sheet is Garmong. Garmong is our shell building. It is being rented by Dixie Chopper for storage and warehouse. There are no employment numbers there because Garmong does not employ anybody working there. And they there is no personal property there because it's all owned by Dixie Chopper. So the only thing there is the real estate. That happened in 2006, that abatement was granted. However, we postponed that because a recession, a small thing called the recession, hit us. So by the time that we got something in there and the abatement started happening, we've got another year and a half left on the Garmong abatement. So after this.
Yeah, Dixie Chopper continues to distribute all of their service parts out of there, and they had a nice display up at First Fridays showing their product line.
And they just recommitted to 2 or 3 years of continuing to lease that facility. So
It's also nice to note that one of the companies we were a little bit critical of for community involvement was one of the top donors for the fireworks. So I think they heard us, and
I think they definitely did. I know they've gotten involved with us and with Chamber right away. So, yeah, it's nice to make your voice known.
And United Way.
And good,
United Way,
wonderful.
well.
And I know some of you took the lead on some of that to make those connections, so I appreciate your help as well. So, Mayor, do
we want to read each one of these individually? The text is pretty much the same on all of them, but, so I'll start with Resolution 2018-8. This is a resolution affirming Ascena Retail Group, Inc. of compliance with Statement of Benefits. Whereas Ascena Retail Group has heretofore been granted certain tax abatements in consideration of certain benefits for the city of Greencastle, and whereas said company has submitted the following forms as of May 15th, 2018. Tax abatement on facility renovation granted in 2012 and 2015, and then personal property for granted in 2012, amended in 2014, and then also on personal property in 2015. Whereas the Common Council has reserved the CF1 forms, copies of which are attached here too, and has found compliance with the previously approved statement of benefits. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, approves the CF1 forms as submitted as being in compliance with the statement of benefits previously filed by Ascena Retail Group, Inc. Be it further resolved that this resolution be made a record and filed along with the CF1 forms with the Putnam County Auditor, passed by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle at its regular meeting this 12th day of July 2018 with appropriate signature lines.
need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I'll let you
Questions?
get the
I'll let
motions.
Steve Fields.
Did anybody have copies of these?
Yeah, they were all sent to you.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
I don't know that they were copied, they were.
They weren't
Electronically.
copied in the packet,
Yeah.
but I sent a separate one and said, if you want copies and you want to pick them up, I will print them
Okay.
off for you.
I didn't see it.
Because they were like 52 pages.
Yeah. I did.
Mark
didn't get
Cameron,
any.
Steve Fields.
that I know of. It doesn't matter to me. I trust you guys.
Yeah.
I probably missed the email.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on Resolution 2018-8. And any further questions or discussions? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Let me, hang on a minute. Let me give you.
Any abstentions or negative votes?
That goes with that resolution, just attached to the back.
Is there just one signature?
Yeah, there's just
We're just
one
gonna do
one
of
signature
them for
copy.
copies.
Okay.
This is Resolution Number 2018-9, a resolution affirming Chiyoda USA Corporation of compliance with Statement of Benefits. Whereas Chiyoda USA Corporation was granted a continuation of certain tax abatements in consideration of certain benefits for the city of Greencastle, and whereas said company has submitted the following forms as of May 15th, 2018. CF1 personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2011. CF1 for personal property on tax abatement on equipment granted in 2012. CF1 for personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2013. CF1 for personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2015. And CF1 for real estate tax abatement on a building expansion granted in 2015. Whereas the Common Council reviewed the CF1 forms, copies of which are attached here too, and has found compliance with the previously approved statement of benefits. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, approves the CF1 forms as submitted as being in compliance with the statement of benefits previously filed by Chiyoda USA Corporation. Be it further resolved that this resolution be made a record and filed along with the CF1 forms with Putnam County Auditor, passed by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle at its regular meeting this 12th day of July, 2018.
I see Dave over there smiling as we're reading these into the record. And we had a resolution once Sue had to read in, Fair Housing Act, that took 20 minutes to read. I always
So,
remember that.
do we have a motion on 2018-9?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Our next company is Crown Equipment. This is Resolution 2018-10, a resolution affirming Crown Equipment Corporation of compliance with Statement of Benefits. Whereas Crown Equipment Corporation has heretofore been granted certain tax abatements in consideration of certain benefits for the City of Greencastle, and whereas said company has submitted the following forms as of May 15th, 2018. CF1 for real estate for tax abatement on facility expansion granted in 2011. CF1 personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2011. And CF1 personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2017. Whereas the Common Council has reviewed the CF1 forms, copies of which are hereto attached, and has found compliance with previously approved statement of benefits. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, approves the CF1 forms as submitted as being in compliance with the statement of benefits previously filed by Crown Equipment Corporation. Be it further resolved that this resolution be made a record and filed along with the CF1 forms with the Putnam County Auditor, passed by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle at its regular meeting this 12th day of 2018 with signature lines. I have a motion for Resolution 2018-10. Stacy?
Second.
Second. Mark is a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Our next one is Resolution 2018-11.
Would it be possible, since the third, fourth, fifth, sixth paragraph are all the same, right?
Pretty much.
Can we just read the first two paragraphs, which are the ones that are
I will
different for each one?
I will be happy to do so with our lawyer's permission.
That since you've already read it.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah. Okay, this is,
company's name and then what?
this is Resolution 2018-11, a resolution affirming Garmong Development Company, LLC, of compliance with Statement of Benefits. Whereas Garmong Development Company, LLC, has heretofore been granted certain tax abatements in consideration of certain benefits for the City of Greencastle. And whereas said company has submitted Form CF1 Real Estate as of May 15th for tax abatement granted in 2006. So this is for the shell building out there occupied by Magic Circle. So do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2018-11?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of resolution 2018-11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Our next one is Heartland Automotive, and this is resolution number 2018-12, a resolution affirming Heartland Automotive LLC of compliance with statement of benefits. Whereas Heartland Automotive LLC has heretofore been granted certain tax abatements in consideration of certain benefits for the City of Greencastle, and whereas said company has submitted the following forms as of May 15th, 2018. CF1 personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2013, and CF1 personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2016. And I have a motion and a second for resolution 2018-12.
Motion.
Steve?
Second.
Adam? Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, our next one is 2018-13. This is a resolution affirming IAC Greencastle LLC of compliance with statement of benefits. Whereas IAC Greencastle, also known as International Automotive Components Corporation, has heretofore been granted certain tax abatements in consideration of certain benefits for the City of Greencastle. And whereas said company has submitted the following forms as of May 15th, 2018. CF1 personal property for tax abatement on equipment granted in 2011, and CF1 personal property for tax abatement granted on equipment in 2013. So could I have a motion for Resolution 2018-13?
Moved.
Adam? Gary is the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Our last one is Resolution 2018-14, a resolution affirming Phoenix Closures, Inc. and Quattro LLC of compliance with Statement of Benefits. Whereas Phoenix Closures, Inc. and Quattro LLC have heretofore been granted certain tax abatements in consideration of certain benefits for the city of Greencastle, and whereas said company has submitted the following forms as of May 15th, 2018, CF1/PP for personal property for tax abatement on equipment in 2011, and CF1 real estate for real estate improvements granted in 2011. Can I have a motion and a second for 2018-14?
Motion.
Stacy?
Second.
And Tyler for the second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
We have all the motions approved, and we'll get copies to you.
Are there any
next week
missing?
for distribution.
Super, I just want to wrap up by saying what you did tonight, thank you for all your approvals. That represents new capital infused into our community and a new capital investment of $47,762,000 in real estate and $205,264,000 invested into personal property. So it represents a large portion of our industrial companies here locally that are huge employers. And again, 3414 is the number that they're employing that represents this from the abatement standpoint. So
That's all of them, right? I think one year we had some that we did most of them one meeting, and the next meeting we had more that came
okay,
in.
that could be,
That's
but,
all of them.
That's all.
but this is
Okay.
all of them.
Good.
Yes, that's
Good.
correct.
And some of the layers of abatement may not be included in those totals because they've run off.
They've run off, yeah.
Yeah, they've expired. We had like 3 or 4 expired just from
This year?
You know,
Or last
yeah.
year?
Once they hit their 10-year run, then, they're at 100% payment of taxes then. And the only other thing I want to say to you guys is I heard a lot of positive comments tonight about Greencastle and how proud we all are of that. And we know that downtowns differentiate. And at the Development Center, we work really hard to work with our major employers, our educators, those who are doing manufacturing and industrial development. But we also work hard in our downtown. We have taken the reins of the Main Street Greencastle. And we know that downtowns differentiate, and that makes a difference. And we are seeing that every first Friday. We're having between 800 to 1,000 to 1,500 people. And so we all appreciate it. We went from having no membership in 2015 to starting off in 2016. And as of this year, we're at 49 paid members. My goal was to get 50, so it's a $40 fee. And if anybody is interested in being a Main Street member, we would certainly be interested in engaging you. Mr. Dave already is a member, so I mean, he and Sue have already paid their dues. But I'm just encouraging you all I thank you that you're acknowledging it, and we are doing some hard work. Tammy in my office does a great job, as well as a lot of other people that are helping us. With 50 paid members, our membership meetings are open, our board meetings are open to our members, and a lot of people attend, really driven by the downtown businesses. So we talk about the businesses and the business development, and we're developing those small businesses as well. So thanks for your support.
Just
And
a
you know
quick
that-
comment today, conversation this afternoon with a local business person and a couple that came to town. They did have the dad had a son who went to DePauw. This is going to be a second marriage. And they were encouraged to stay for First Friday. And they're now talking about buying a home they saw in Heritage Lake. And this is coming from Ohio and Indianapolis, moving to Greencastle. I mean, that's the kind of momentum that's out there right now. So thank you for your part in that, and thanks for your work on vital economic development activity.
Super.
And one of the things I heard was that, our First Friday is so successful, other communities try it and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
They fizzle. So, somebody that lives over in Illinois, a friend of my son, he said that community that's near him tried it, and they got it off the ground, but it just didn't take off. And it
The
died.
people that started it
So-
did a great job
Yeah.
of sticking with it that first summer, not giving up. I mean, one of the first years it collided with July 4th, and they just did a great job of, people stepped up in the community, and we should be thankful for those people.
And we've got a beautiful downtown square.
We do.
And it gets more beautiful with all the investment from DePaul alumni and from other people that are committing. And so we all work hard together. And now we've got 4 bands and 3 venues all around the square, if not 5 at times. So we've got a lot of restaurateurs that are really making a big dent in, in what they're doing, and are all stepping up. So we're all in it together. But thank you all.
Mayor, is this all a good lead into what you want to talk about
Yes.
next?
Actually, it's a really good lead.
Well-
the abatement was too, because there was something I learned today.
Right.
So go ahead.
Okay, housing information. I'm just going to start off kind of how we have embarked on this. In October of 2017, we completed a market study. That study indicated opportunity for homes in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, a smaller opportunity above $300,000, total opportunity, all price points, well over 700 housing units. Now, that's not getting 700 like tomorrow, but over several years. Market opportunity, we also looked at the rental market, and that showed a market opportunity at various price points over 500 units. That study accounted for both the new and proposed units that I'll talk about here shortly. Product options, single family. I follow the MIBOR reports that come out monthly that talk about home sales. The May report, which is the most recent one, and it covers the entire county, there were only 117 single-family detached homes available, listed on MIBOR, in the entire county. That is not any inventory for us. That is way low. Now, granted, there's probably more than that, because that does not reflect for sale by owner, and there may be a couple smaller firms that do not participate in MIBOR, but every real estate agent I've talked to in the last year has complained that inventory is lacking. Add to that, only 5 condominiums are on the market. Deerfield Estates, there's approximately 27 lots still available in Deerfield. That's along Shadow on there.
What's that number again, Bill? I'm sorry.
27.
27. Some of these lots need to be combined, basically take 2 lots to create 1 building site, to create a buildable site. Others have issues relative to being buildable in the first place, either terrain or wetlands. Price range on the lots range from $2,000 to $35,000. Whispering Winds at Woods Edge, our newest subdivision, that is 50 lots. There's a potential for 35 additional lots in a future phase. Currently, the city has issued certificates of occupancy for 11 houses, and they've been sold and occupied. There's 11 active permits for construction, and there's 7 other lots that have been reserved or are under contract, but the permit has not yet been issued. Typical home is about 1,200 to 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Selling price is $150,000 plus. Out in the township, and those are really the 2. There's a few scattered lots around town, but those are the only lots basically available in the city limits. In the township, Madison Hills, which is kind of out Dunbar Road, there's 6 lots available. Cedar Lake Estates, which is out Rangeline Road, as you head towards Fillmore, there's 7 lots available, but not all the lots are on the market. I asked a local real estate person to run numbers for me on home sales above $275,000. So he ran 2 years of data from May 2016 to roughly May 2018. There were 58 homes in the county sold during that period. 12 of the homes sold in less than 10 days. 31 of the 58 sold in less than 90 days. Normally 90 days is considered a sort of a normal marketing period. 41 of the 58 homes sold in less than 120 days. The average sale price for the 58, or for the homes that sold, the 58 homes, was $357,000, a little bit above that. Of those 58, only 4 were in the city limits, and 11 were in Greencastle Township. The vast majority were scattered around the county, with the majority being out at Heritage Lake. Product Options Multifamily. Zinc Mill Terrace, we're hoping to receive the final development plans for that project sometime later this month, and they're hoping to break ground shortly. So that will provide an additional 94 one- and two-bedroom units here in the community, market rate. I remain in contact with the developer for the proposed Jones School project. They intend to reapply for the tax credits for that. So that project is still on the burner, so to speak, although delayed because it did not receive credits this current year. So they'll go in later this year with a hopeful award early next year. One of our goals is to provide more housing units in the downtown. I've been in contact with a code professional, somebody who is knowledgeable about the state building code and how to work the code. And we're going to put this person in contact with some of the property owners downtown to try to see if we can develop some more upper floor apartments. And there's some various ways that you can work through the code to maybe not have to provide a sprinkler system and maybe not have to provide an elevator, which are major expenses and major hurdles preventing people from making those kind of investments. DePaul is currently working on an all-campus housing study. The vast majority of their study is going to be focused on students. However, they are also looking at faculty housing needs and staff housing needs as well as part of that study. So hopefully that will provide us with some additional information. I continue to have ongoing meetings with developers, and we're asking them to take a look at Greencastle for potential investments in additional apartments and single family. We are also speaking with several architectural and engineering firms that do work for housing developers. I've got another party coming in a week from Friday to look at the community. And, we present them with information. We present them with information from the housing study, and then they have to go back and determine whether or not they want to make an investment here. So at some point, we're hoping one of them will say yes and move forward. The question came up last month, how can the city help? Several arenas. One is typically a developer will look for mechanisms to minimize risk and unnecessary expense. In one of the engineering firms that we've talked with, they have looked at our development standards and found them to be reasonable. One of the issues going on in Hendricks County is they keep ratcheting up their development standards, and that is causing consternation among developers as well as lengthening the approval process. Also, to minimize that risk, developers typically look for reasonable and timely development approvals and even proactive zoning. We do have some properties around the city that are already zoned, ready for residential development, and we can work fairly quickly to rezone other parcels that might need to be adjusted depending on what a product mix that a developer might want to bring to our market. We can also turn around, if a party submits complete documents to us, we can turn those around fairly quickly. Typically in the past when we've had delays is because we've not received complete information from a client. Another area that we can help with is assistance with infrastructure. For example, bringing water and sewer to the property line, any off-site improvements to help encourage the development, not unlike what we do for our industrial folks. One of the things that was done by Mayor Murray was the lift station that's by Ivy Tech there. That was upgraded so that its capacity was increased. That allowed the first phase of Zinc Mill Terrace to come in, and it was also sized in anticipation of the Whispering Winds development and potentially some other development if it came in south of South Street there.
Will it also handle the second phase of
Yes,
Mill?
yeah.
Okay, good.
Another thing that sometimes developers look for is assistance with land assembly. I've been doing some research on some projects up in Brownsburg There, the city, the Catholic church that was right downtown, it had a sizable piece of property, but they were moving to a larger campus. The city of Brownsburg purchased that, cleaned up the site, and then made it available for some apartment development in their downtown. So sometimes a developer may ask a city to assist with land assembly. Quite frankly, it's easier if that's done in the private sector, but in some cases, you know, a unit of government may have to step in. Yeah, brownfields, yeah. Yeah. So, other examples from Brownsburg in terms of assistance with development costs, they are doing some mixed-use development in their downtown, and in one of the projects, the city signed a master lease for the commercial space that basically paid the rent on that until the developer was able to fill it, and basically that provided a subsidy and cash flow and provided security for the lender so that there would be income coming in to pay the debt service during the lease-up period.
Am I right to think that that's kind of like the Garmong, build it and they will come?
Quite similar, yes. Yeah. And they also, a couple of projects, the city participated in parking garage construction. In, I believe, both cases, some of the parking spaces in the garages would be public parking, part of the spaces would be for the tenant parking in the apartments. And they also provide just some flat-out direct subsidy, cash loans, some loan guarantees, and even did some other bond financing that was kind of private placement with the folks. We have good people on board to help us. Lori works with Ice Miller. They have participated in some of these projects, both in Brownsburg as well as across central Indiana. We also work with UMBAH. UMBAH has been the kind of financial advisor on some of these projects. So we've got two good folks that are on board with us as part of our development team. In other locations, some communities have actually served as the developer or worked through a not-for-profit to develop particularly what we would call entry-level housing or worker housing in some communities. We need to find out a little bit more about that. Issues that typically arise in development scenarios, sometimes a property owner will have an unreasonable expectation of what the value of the land is, and that can potentially quash a deal. We haven't run into that situation here locally. Just broadly in the construction industry, due to some of the tariffs and issues in the global marketplace, materials are increasing. Obviously, steel prices have gone up, lumber prices have increased somewhat. That doesn't help our efforts. Some of that's due to the global market, some of it's just due to the strength of the economy. You know, you also have to look at competition in the marketplace. Currently, it's sometimes seen to be easier to make money in Indianapolis or the donut counties than it is to make money in the next tier county out that we are. We also have the issue of rising interest rates that makes mortgages slightly less affordable, or the price point of the house has to come down a little bit. You know, maybe at a 3% mortgage rate, I can afford a $300,000 house. At a 5% mortgage rate, I might be down to $265,000. You know, depending my income stays the same. Just a couple other numbers here. Rental housing affordability. I use HUD's median income for a family of four for Putnam County. They list it as $64,700. If 25% of their income is spent on housing, which is actually a fairly conservative number, that could be up to 38%, they would spend $16,175 a year for rent and basic utilities. So that translates into about $1,350 a month to go towards rent and utilities. In an apartment that's fairly new like Zinc Mill, your utilities are not going to be very high because generally they have they're well insulated, you have efficient HVAC systems and things like that. Owner-occupied housing affordability, again, using that $64,700 number, and again, being conservative at 25% of income going towards housing, not necessarily including utilities. That percentage could actually be up to 41%. And so it ends up that same $16,175 number. Maximum monthly mortgage, property, private mortgage insurance and property taxes should total about $1,350. An estimated home value that could be afforded with 10% down, 30-year fixed rate at 4.75%, which is a little higher than current rates. That translates into roughly a $250,000 house with an estimated monthly mortgage payment without the private mortgage insurance, but, you know, roughly including taxes, about $1,300 or so. So if we can get somebody, you know, we've got some builders here. We don't have any production builders like you see in Indianapolis. And the one thing we really don't have is the land developers like you would find in Indianapolis. And so we're continuing to have discussions, find out what the developer needs are, how we can help. And we've asked people, made our presentation, we've asked them, you know, to take a look at our market and then come back to us and tell us, you know, of your interest or how we can help.
Two comments. One, keep charging ahead on this. This
Yeah.
is a very important issue from community development point of view. And the other thing I want to toss in here, because we've had some real sensitivity about our capturing more of the TIF money with RDC. Superintendent Hubble can correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I heard it was roughly $5,000 of additional revenue for the school system in tight financial times for each child that enrolls. And when you have the kind of development you're talking about with Zinc Mill and other ways, it only benefits the school, much less the rest of us.
Well, the other thing to remember too is that when people choose to work here but live elsewhere, we are losing the income tax that is being reported back to their own county. So family that's working here but then living in Avon, say, because they could not find a home here, we are losing their income tax.
Yeah.
And that is a problem.
We have,
You know,
I think-
Kristen did the analysis, that was assuming all 3,134 or whatever it was.
Which we know
employees
isn't.
Live in Putnam County, and they don't.
They don't, so.
I bet over half of them don't.
Right.
Well, we also have about 5,000 people that live in the kind of the commute out of county
Commute out,
work.
yeah, until we get that.
It kind of balances out, but
Right,
we'd like to have more people living here.
Yes.
In talking with Jeff, we have a capacity in our school system, roughly about 400 students without having to build another classroom. So we have capacity in our schools.
Excess capacity then.
Yeah.
Another 400 students sprinkled among.
Yeah, assuming we don't have 400 kindergartners
Yes.
show up. But yeah, spread across the school system.
Yeah. All these families come in, they got kindergartners,
Yeah.
second graders.
Yeah, spread across the school system, we have some capacity, and so, you know, we can, other than having, you know, to hire some more teachers perhaps, but we have classroom space, we don't have to necessarily build a new elementary school or things like that, so we have some capacity. We certainly have capacity in our water and sewer utilities, so.
Definitely.
And more families also helps us with our beloved downtown, in that if we can bring some families and get them to stay here, especially professional families, the disposable income will be there to support our shops, our restaurants.
Well, after 2 hours, if our audience is not asleep out there, I'd like to, unless there's something else that's urgent, lots more to talk about here, I'd like to move that we adjourn.
Can you email us a copy of those numbers you're reading off? Can you email
Yeah.
us a copy of that? I'd love to have that.
That'd be great.
I tried to write down stuff, and I finally put the pen down.
You know, the thing that struck me, thinking of Adam Smith's Invisible Hand, that, you know, there's a compelling argument, right, that we need housing. And whereas somebody who's got a profit motive should be here doing it. So there must be a hurdle somewhere, because it's not happening or not happening.
Well, I think, you know, what Bill said about, you know, it's easier, because there's a bigger population base in the donut counties as well as Marion County, and it's maybe easier to make the turn property quicker.
And we don't have the land easily.
The other thing that is difficult for developers, particularly on the land side of it, is banks are it's much more difficult to get conventional financing to do a subdivision than it was maybe 15 years ago. That isn't helping the situation. And then, you know, and that, some of that's regulatory environment, some of that's risk management. You know, I have mentioned to our folks we've talked to that we have a couple of local banks that would be willing to work with them. We also have some regional banks that would be willing to work with them. And the other thing we identify is that when you look at our county, there is nothing going on in Clay County to the west of us. There's nothing going on in Park County, and there's not much going on in Owen County. So potentially, we could draw from those other counties for people to live here and join our community.
And some of them are already coming here to work.
Yeah.
Significant numbers from the
Yeah,
counties.
because some of them, because
Those three counties,
they can't find the housing here.
Yeah.
That's the problem, you know? So 400 new kindergartners next year, you got that?
That's right, and Adam will teach them.
Adam promised.
We'll teach them.
Adam will teach them. I second Dave's motion to adjourn and call the question.
There'll be 200 by the end, I'll lose them.
We have a motion to adjourn, and I assume all are in favor.
Yes.
Yes.
Eric's already out the door.
Thank you very much.
Eric's out the door.
Either way.
Made the
Tyler was a
motion,
Tyler with an
Dave
O.
seconded it, or the other way around.
Are they brand new?